Hello and welcome to This Week at the Movies. I'm Matt,
I'm Eric.
and we are celebrating Labor Day by looking back at the summer of 2023, Labor Day
Goodbye,
weekend.
summer.
Yes. Labor Day weekend, often the unofficial end to summer, just as Memorial Day weekend is often the unofficial kickoff to summer. So, this summer has brought us some big movies that both of us dearly love that we have already talked about. There was the Barbenheimer. Barbie and Oppenheimer, both up there in my top five. I know in Eric's as well. We've had Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, still very high up there for me. What a great way to kick off the summer movie season, which at the movies begins the first weekend in May. And
you had Spider-Man, Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, like fire after fire
Gran,
after fire.
Gran Torino,
Gran
Turismo.
Torino.
Yeah,
Gran Torino too. Gran Turismo.
Yeah, but Gran Turismo. So, but you know what? There were other movies out there that we didn't have a chance to talk about on this here program that were actually kind of interesting or piqued our interest. So that's why we're going to call this one kind of Hidden Gems. And you know what? We're going to kick off. Eric is fired up and ready to go
with the most hidden of dully gloomy gems, a sort of faded ruby, if you will.
Insidious, The Red Door. And it's not often that the fifth movie in a franchise makes it to your hidden gems. I would think the four previous installments might have brought it out to the light. But Eric, what was the Insidious? This is the one of the four movies we're going to talk about tonight that I actually have not seen. So
you've not seen it. Okay. So
not.
Full spoilers. So, whatever.
I don't think you're going to ruin it for me. I have an inkling of what happens.
Let me just start with a core comment on the original casting of Insidious. You have Rose Byrne, who is one of the most well-ranged and underrated actresses of her time, I think. You have Patrick Wilson, who is constantly a highlight of most things he's in and never quite gets the spotlight. You have Ty Simpkins, who may be the best child actor of his generation. And you have I'm sorry, I'm gapping on her name, but she's been in all four of the previous installments, all five of the installments, actually. And she rarely gets to play a character who's not larger than life, and she's still a clairvoyant. What is her name? With that lady? Hey, let's look it up. Give me 2 seconds. Don't click off the video. It's going to be really entertaining. I swear, I promise. Insidious The Red Door is basically a recap of 1 and 2. And that's a very bizarre way to put things, but here's the deal. Lynn Shay, oh my goodness, thank you. That's going to kill me that I didn't remember that. Lynn Shay, genre actress, she's a staple, she's fantastic. So you have a cast that started in 2011 in this movie, directed by James Wan, who with a 1-2 punch of Insidious and The Conjuring kicked off our recent heavy wind of modern horror. And so just an incredible amount of talent goes into
Patrick Wilson, apparently, though, because he's in the Conjuring franchise.
Yeah.
It's either Patrick Wilson and you need one of the Farmigas. It's either Vera,
yeah, there you go,
going OG, or Thaisa, if you're going to go with.
So here's what I don't get. The Insidious, the first 2 movies, I love horror. They scare me. Like, there are movies and you watch and you're like, this is a scary movie. And then there are ones that get under your skin. You're not totally comfortable having them on your shelf. For me, these are movies like The Witch and the Insidious movies. It's so annoying to me to see so much passion and then see a project come out that defies all expectations for how little care I think a studio would have for a 5th installment and brings back the entire cast of the original. Allows Patrick Wilson to direct, and then delivers the most spaced out, boring story they could possibly come up with. And it's a mystery to me, because you've got to think these people are invested. Why are you coming back to this when you're all super talented and going off and doing something else? Ty Simpkins, the last that we saw of him was at Tony Stark's funeral. He's in The Nice Guys. He's in the Insidious movies. He's in to Iron Man 3, and he rocks every role that he's in. And now he's in this transition period of young adult, and I think he's maybe figuring things out. I don't know. I really hope I don't learn scary stories. Like, I hope he grew up well. And he's a very effective actor still. He's great. He was the most engrossing thing in the movie to me. But what happens is after the first two movies, they sit down, they've beaten the big bad, and they wipe Patrick Wilson and Ty Simpkins' minds. And then they thought it was a great idea to have this movie's first half be that the first two movies are a mystery to them and they're trying to figure out what happened. Why? Why would you have sequence after sequence of just someone is in location A and set up for tension to build and you don't know where the monster is going to spring up and surprise you? I mean, oh my gosh, there's such little explanation of everything. There's such, you'd think The Red Door would finally be about the Red Door. Since the first movie, this has been the place where the lipstick face demon has lived. And so you think, and for a brief second you get Ty Simpkins in that living space, interacting with the creature. But no, he's just in there, and then he's trapped in a cage, and then he's possessed for a second, and then, it just kind of fumbles its way out. There are all of these dangling plot hooks that serve for ideas for more interesting stories, like Ty Simpkins. It's always been a rule: the longer you spend in the further with these people who can astral project into the realm of the dead, the more you open a window for the dead to affect the living. But there's a problem in the world of the undead, and this isn't the first time this had happened, but the idea is that this child is now empowered and has the ability to affect change. And he sees this ghost who died of like alcohol poisoning, and he tries to give him a warning. And there's a hint that he's going to start to follow the breadcrumbs from ghost to ghost to try and solve the problem. And then he is immediately captured, and the movie is almost over. And it drove me insane. The tone and the flavor and the direction, everything was there. So why didn't they freaking use any of it? I don't understand. This franchise is such a standout horror franchise. Even if you're moving on to 3 and 4, those aren't the most like world-changing movies ever. They don't really bring a lot of new ideas to the table. But 1 and 2, with this being a direct sequel that could have capped a trilogy centered around that family, oh man, like I just wanted so much more. Now there are some effective moments of tension in this movie, and if you miss this over the summer, this is going to be an amazing, like, turn off the lights, see if you can make it through the whole movie with the lights turned off for the fall season movie, especially again as a continuation of movies 1 and 2. They do something amazing in this franchise, which is,
I will say, the nice thing about all 4 of the movies we're going to talk about tonight, they are all available on VOD as of now.
Yeah. And that was the greatest thing about Ninja Turtles, is I was like, am I going to go to the movie theater this weekend? And it popped up on VOD, and I felt really bad about not seeing it in theaters afterwards, but we'll get there. Anyways, Insidious: The Red Door, that franchise, is the last thing I'll say, is it repurposes footage from older movies, and there are setups where characters can look in on themselves younger. And I got to tell you, there is one absolutely worthwhile moment of seeing the movie for, where the Ty Simpkins, older, revisits himself younger. And because of the nature of how they film these movies, they do not have to de-age the actors. They just use footage from when they were. And it's one of those things that the movies that get under my skin the most are the ones that waste potential. And this is a movie that has potential and wasted all of its screen time. And I just really think people might get a kick out of it, but get ready to want to get more invested in something that yields very little reward. So yeah.
I can tell you're giving it 2 thumbs up.
Oh, full 2 thumbs up. I'm actually neutral to 1. I'm like weekly shifting 1 thumb off the mat. But
And this movie came out kind of in a weird period, the beginning of July, right? It was
Oh, it had no chance.
there were two movies that came out July 7th. You and I didn't do a show that week, but both of us have a film that released that week on the list for this week, which is kind of interesting. Yours was Insidious. We'll get to mine later. Both of them now available on VOD. The VOD window, I swear, is getting shorter and shorter. You know, the
really
Meg
is.
2, which launched like August 16th or something,
Yes,
is already
this is my
available
theory.
on
This is my
VOD.
theory. I think if there is a certain percentage of drop off in the second week of sales, they're going to try to throw a movie on VOD before word of mouth is gone to see if they can generate home revenue.
Yeah.
And we're going to see a 3-tiered theater, VOD, physical media release. I think that's going to become the norm moving forward.
Well, we go from a horror movie to like the deep well of sadness. My first pick is the film Past Lives, which, you know, our good friend Ricky, I told him I watched the movie and I was like, it's a little bit sad. And he's like, what are you talking about? This is the saddest movie I've ever seen. And I was like, okay, well, now I don't feel so bad. The movie debuted at the Sundance Film Festival and then kind of unceremoniously got a release on June 30th. It worked out great for me because I really wanted to see it so that I could include it to see if it would make my top films of the first half of the year, which, spoiler alert, it did. It is still sitting up in my top 5 for the year. Some incredible performances, but you wouldn't really pick June 30th in the middle, you know, in between blockbuster season as the time of year where you would get this kind of slow burn drama. So if you missed it at the theater, you can't be blamed. It is now available on VOD. It comes from A24, which, you know, very much known for doing kind of deeper award bait films. And this, I think, certainly will play in there. It comes from Celine Song, who is the writer and director. And it's really a tale of these two kids, Nora and Haesung, who were deeply connected childhood friends. And then Nora's family emigrated from South Korea, first to Canada, and now she's in New York. And they kind of tried to keep this connection alive, you know, at various points in time. And you hit 3 kind of different time periods. But ultimately, the ending time period, as you can see from this trio here, is Haesung coming to visit Nora, who's now married to a different dude. And it's them kind of
Diego Luna?
No, John Magaro. John Magaro, and he gives a great performance in what could have easily, and the film script is so on point that it even acknowledges could have been like a terrible part, you know, like the typical white new Jewish New Yorker who is now standing in the way of true love between these two, you know, childhood sweethearts. Greta Lee is the main actress. She's incredible in this. Their back and forth is incredible. The way that it explores this idea and their lives and tells the story is pretty incredible. It is overwhelmingly sad, but not in like a depressing way. I don't even know how to describe it unless you saw it, but it is incredibly powerful, a very well written, well acted film. I think Greta Lee, John Magaro could both be on the short list for acting nominations, you know, when we come out of this. Very well crafted by Celine Song. Again, not the kind of movie you typically think of when you were thinking of like the summer blockbuster season. Did come out during the summer. It's now available on VOD. Everyone that checks it out seems to get blown away. You know, I would give it 2 thumbs up. I was not expecting it. But yeah, go ahead. You're muted.
A24 must have something locked for the November season, you know.
There's going to be some other things that are coming out. What's interesting is one of the biggest releases from Sundance that had already gotten parked on December 8th, which I know was supposed to be for an Oscar run, stars Jonathan Majors, and now it's still slated to come out there, and I don't know what to make of it now. That Magazine Dreams. That was one of the few movies I saw out of Sundance, in Sundance. But yeah, there's always big ones that come along. A24's had a lot of interesting films. How to Blow Up a Pipeline, which kind of was making the rounds in the spring, is now available on Hulu to stream. I know that one has a lot of backing, and I'm sure there's going to be some other things in the fall. It might be that second movie about Elvis told from Priscilla Presley's perspective. I think that's an A24 film.
Okay.
That comes from Sofia Coppola. I've seen the trailers for it. Very, has that Sofia Coppola vibe, but we shall see. So we went from horror to the deep well of drama to, what else could we do other than drop right into the animated realm?
Exact opposite.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, from, as they called it, perpetual teenager Seth Rogen and his partner Evan Goldberg. Seth Rogen actually a voice in there. So is Ayo Edebiri, who has had a huge summer, currently starring in the movie Bottoms, which just came out, but she voices April O'Neil. She's also the executive chef on The Bear, if you've ever seen that FX series. Cool. I loved her voice work here. You got Jackie Chan as Splinter. This was a movie I saw that I actually enjoyed. Eric wanted to pick it up, and it made your list.
It jumped real high on my list. I don't understand what happened to me when I was watching this movie. So I'll just sing the movie's praises for a little bit. One, it is in contrast to every single Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that's ever been made. You now realize that the real titles for all those movies are Young Adult Mutants, Martial Arts Turtles. This movie is about teenagers, mutants who are ninjas and turtles. It's such a stark contrast of these characters that are on screen to even the most playful, child-friendly versions of the animated series. I think there is an animated series from the late 2000s to early 2010s that really strikes a good balance like this. And I'm not saying that this blows everything out of the water. I think there's certainly, for fans of this franchise, comparable projects. But Jackie Chan was I shouldn't be surprised because he voice acted an entire animated series and he has plenty of history with it. But Splinter, they didn't go with this history that Splinter has in some run of the comics and things where he's the soul of like a martial arts master imbued in a rat, and that's why he does. No, he's a rat who's been treated by the world like a rat, and that's why he would want to train what he sees as his children to defend themselves and keep things secret and keep to the shadows. It's a natural extension to the contrast between human and animal and the way that they interact. And I should not be saying something that over the top about a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, but here we are. This movie took something so outlandish and then made the relationship so real that everything worked. April was amazing. Her relationship with the Turtles was organic. The Turtles relationship, the ad-libbing that they let the teenagers do, they used just enough of the ad-libbing to let them feel like real teenagers and not enough to make them stall a story from happening or keep from moving things forward. This is just kind of another superhero movie of the summer, but even when it comes to the style, I would say they are influenced by something like Spider-Verse, but I think this has such its own stamp of just like a child drawing in a sketchbook in high school and creating something out of their minds just because they think it's awesome. And I think you said it right. That promotional thing from Perpetual Children, Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, it is hands down the best voice that could possibly be behind it, because the humor is not always, oh, isn't it crazy that they're turtles or they're mutants? Sometimes the humor is just the humor of what can happen to people and situations that are awkward and fun. Like I thought I was going to dismiss and have to just tolerate so many moments in this, but I absolutely loved all of the characters and just became heavily invested in what was happening. And like Ice Cube nailed it. Like Paul Rudd was amazing for the little bit that he got.
Giancarlo Esposito.
Yes, he was fantastic, Baxter Stockman. Like the idea that he's in the woodwork and there maybe could be another with this. They used animation as a medium so well to showcase their balance of teamwork of the turtles and to montage, like to make that city come alive in the flavor and texture that it needed to. Like it shows you what this medium can do with the sort of heightened reality of like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies and that New York City. This was just so much more like lived in, and I just was completely blown away from beginning to end. It started, it stopped. I wanted to watch the whole credits because I just didn't want to stop thinking about the music, the needle drops, the Trent Reznor score. Like every few minutes, I remember another thing about the movie that I was like, oh my gosh. And I don't understand. There are some people that are, for lack of a better term, sleeping on this movie or just like passing on it. Like maybe it's not for them. I don't know what it is, but like,
I feel like there's just been so many turtle movies that people were not inclined to give it a chance. I mean, going back to, I actually went back and rewatched all the original three from the 1990.
Yeah.
And then you had different animated iterations. You had the Michael Bay, Megan Fox iterations, which I had almost forgotten about till they popped up on Paramount Plus. They were like, "Hey, you need to watch all these turtle movies." And I was like, "Oh yeah." So when I saw the trailers, I didn't have huge expectations, but I'm like you, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was better than I expected. I gave it a thumb up. It's low key been a pretty good summer for animated films. You mentioned Across the Spider-Verse, which I didn't love it as much as I love the first one, but it's still right up there in my top 10 for this year. I actually really enjoyed Elemental, which was the Pixar offering that they finally actually put back in the theaters.
Yeah.
Elemental and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think those three animated films that we've gotten in this, June, July, August period have been very strong and will end up being pretty strong contenders, I would think, at the end of the year. I really enjoyed those. And at the same time, we got like Nimona on Netflix, which dropped in the middle of summer, which was a pretty well-received animated film. I like that one okay. It's been a decent summer for animated films that have had, some good stories. I'll be curious to see what kind of ones we get in the fall. It doesn't look like there's a huge slate of big animated releases in the fall. Disney putting a lot of
the Paw Patrol
hope in
movie.
the wish. No, that's a no from me, dog. And I'll have to tell you, I saw Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken. Oh God,
that seemed like a weird project.
Utterly forgettable.
Okay.
Well, from perpetual turtle teenagers to perpetual adult teenagers, my choice was the other film that dropped on July 7th, and that was Joyride. It came from Adele Lim, who was making her directorial feature debut, but she was a writer. She worked on Crazy Rich Asians. She worked on Raya the Last Dragon, the animated film last year. None of those would probably prepare you for this. This is an all-out kind of balls to the wall, which is ironic since it's all women, R-rated comedy. The kind, you always get one of these like over the top, I think of Bridesmaids was like a middle of summer, The Hangover, kind of that middle of summer. This really filled that void. You get to see these kind of four girls who are from three of whom live in America, going on this wild trip through Korea, and just some incredible performances. They end up going through China and Korea, and it is just a whole lot of fun. Ashley Park is great as Audrey. Really enjoyed Sherry Cola and Stephanie Sue. I thought were incredible. Sherry Cola would be on my short list for best supporting actress for this. Stephanie Sue, who was incredible in Everything Everywhere All at Once, completely different part. Those two just killed me. And then kind of the fourth member of that group, Sabrina Wu, who played a character named Deadeye. It's just so much fun. It's so unexpected. You have real life people playing exaggerated versions of themselves, like Baron Davis, who is playing himself and his basketball team, which ends up factoring into all this. Just some hilarious turns, a lot of camaraderie. It was a movie that just really was up there for me. It is currently sitting at number 7 on my list. All 7, I think, of my top films so far this year have come during the summer movie season. It has just been an incredible season. I gave it, a huge thumbs up. It was a big surprise to me. I thought, oh, this could be funny. But I just loved it. And that's another one that just kind of seems like, I don't know if it just caught between the huge releases, because, you had Indiana Jones there that came out on June 30th. And then you had Mission Impossible that came out on July 12th, Barbenheimer in July. And then I can't even remember the last week in July had some kind of mega release too that we looked at. You forget because they all just packed so closely together. And unfortunately, I think this movie kind of got a little bit lost in the shuffle there, because it was like the Friday after 4th of July.
Oh, okay. No.
Yeah, it dropped on July 7th. This is the same weekend as Insidious: The Red Door. I think that was just a weekend that kind of got lost in the shuffle between these sort of mammoth releases, because in June, you would have had Across the Spider-Verse, and then you ended with Indiana Jones, and then it was like this weekend, and then Mission Impossible actually pulled up, didn't even go on a Friday, went on a Wednesday. So it was literally 5 days after these movies open. I hope more people get a chance to see it. It's another one that's available on VOD if you're just looking for like kind of an outrageous comedy. And it's nice that it explores a different cultural perspective than you typically get, and showcases a group of actresses that, I hope become household names. I've been noticing them in other things, like Audrey Park, who's the lead in this, is actually one of the leads in season 3 of Only Murders in the Building, which has been fun. I've seen Sherry Cola in a couple of things.
Season 2. Yeah,
well, you'll get there. Season 3 has Meryl Streep and Paul Rudd, so
I know.
I enjoy that show a lot more than maybe I should. But watching that and the after party, it's just about the real life TV murder mysteries for me, apparently. But, if you're looking for a good comedy, it was a good time. I think what we can take away from tonight and the rest of the summer is what an incredible summer.
Oh my gosh.
Which is good, because it looks like they're shuffling some things out of the fall. So we may need to savor this.
Time to process it.
Yeah, we may need to savor this summer period. But it was just, it was a mammoth summer. I had some lofty expectations going in, and I think it blew them all out of the water.
Yep. I think for the most part, in general, things have either hit or surpassed expectations. I don't know. I can't think of anything for me, because I ended up liking Indiana Jones more than I thought I would. The rest of the world is kind of like, okay, good night. So yeah.
I liked it a decent amount too.
Yeah.
I
don't know.
That was the other June release, The Flash. I was trying to think something else that's now on VOD.
Oh my gosh.
That's come out.
That's right. That one where Michael Keaton came back as Batman. We forgot about that one.
Based on the numbers, apparently people did forget.
Yeah, apparently people did. Yeah, Blue Beetle was pretty good too. Yeah.
Which, sadly, it's already been booted out of theaters, which kind of tells you, the window to succeed for some of these movies now is so short. And I think that's what you're seeing. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles did well enough at the box office that it's been hanging out. But the other 3 films on this list, I'm pretty sure Past Lives, I saw it the weekend it came out. I'm pretty sure it was gone. by the next weekend. And that's just because you're in the middle of summer and those screens are at a premium. And if you're not churning out like a huge box office, but these are worth checking out. All of them now available on VOD. I'm sure several of them are going to start popping up on regular streaming services as well. Something to look forward to. And you know what? You really need to savor the summer of 2023 because the month of September does not look as spectacular.
Check out Last Voyage of the Demeter too. Do that.
Yeah,
with your
another
time
one that
if it's in there.
completely got lost. Did you actually go see it?
Oh yeah, I want that director to succeed. That is the person who did the Autopsy of Jane Doe and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And I have a lot of problems with that movie, but I think they're all the result of that script being one of those like passed around for years scripts. And then they just put this really awesome talent behind the camera and this amazing cast together. But then what are you going to do when you're starting with material that just never fully focused on one thing or another? But I'm hating on, like, it's like I have this bar for horror and I'm paying like, these people don't need it. I tell you what, Last Voyage of the Demeter will surprise you, but Insidious: The Red Door will be like your first good getting ready for spooky season movie. So take your pick.
Go. And we are kind of in spooky season. Well, if you enjoyed this week, next week will feel very early 2000s as we're apparently getting a third installment of the My Big Fat Greek Wedding series.
Wedding.
And I will tell you, the first two are available to stream if you have streaming services. One, ironically, is on HBO Max, and one is on Peacock. Why they're not on the same is anyone's guess. But I did do my rewatching homework. I think that first one came out when I was in college. So
yeah,
it'd be interesting to catch up with them all. They're actually finally going to Greece. So it will be the Greekest of the films.
Yep.
But
I'm super excited about it. I keep
so is my wife. She kept telling me, she's like,
midnight.
what can we see this week? And I was like, there's nothing you want to see this weekend unless you want to watch Denzel Washington murder a bunch of people. And she's like, I'll pass on that. And she's like, I'm not going to see anything this month. And I was like, well, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 comes out next Friday. I'm going to that.
Yeah.
And I am reasonably excited for A Haunting in Venice, which is the third Kenneth Branagh as Hercule
I have to watch
Poirot.
Death on the Nile. I'm really excited for us to do an episode on.
Yes.
It's not just because I have so many thoughts, but because I love like murder mysteries. And there's this very bizarre relationship with those movies in the sense that they're almost designed hoping the audience won't have read the source material. And there's so much of the source material that's already been made, the BBC shows and all this kind of stuff. Those movies are so interesting to me.
But I mean, he again has a murderer's row of a cast because Michelle Yeoh, Kelly Riley, Tina Fey, who you don't really picture, Jamie Dornan.
She's amazing. Yeah. Jamie Dornan. I think Jamie Dornan is amazing. If you've never seen the show The Fall.
Yes. The Fall is incredible.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. 50 Shades. I always thought it was funny that his type in The Fall describes the main protagonist of 50 Shades of Grey.
So I had seen The Fall first. So when I went to see 50 Shades with my wife and they make the joke with the whole serial killer kid, I'm like, I don't know how much of a joke that is.
It's a little too close.
Spoiler alert if you haven't seen some mid-2000s TV with Jamie Dornan and Gillian Anderson.
If you can find it, that is a rare, top-notch
on Netflix
thriller. Yeah, with like you said, Gillian Anderson as the officer trying to the detective trying to find him.
Who went from being Scully to being professionally British in shows.
Yeah,
it's a choice.
Yeah,
it's a choice. All right,
have enjoyed and a lot to look forward to.
Well, go check out all those movies you can catch on VOD and get ready for a visit to the Greek Isles. Until then, we will see you at the movies.